Good afternoon. This is Don Palayo checking in again. I've I went dashing this afternoon. I dashed for about an hour, and I had forgotten to schedule myself this evening for this whole week. My DoorDash schedule. You have to go in there and actually schedule your time that you're going to put in there. And I'd forgotten to do it, and I got in there and if you don't schedule it, you have to wait for it to become busy. And so I finally waited and it turned busy anyway. So I went out and did some dashing, but I've got the rest of my week scheduled out. I'm kind of pensive this evening, and I get very thoughtful sometimes and get things on my mind, weighing on my mind, and I just wanted to come home and look at a few things. I've many times, several different times in my life, I've considered starting a business, like an LLC or some sort of business. I'm not the most creative type person in the world, and sometimes I feel like it requires a certain element of creativity being a business to be an entrepreneur and starting businesses and things. Um, I'm not real great with that part of it. I'm very much an inside the box thinker, not an out of the box thinker. Um, but I've started thinking a little bit more about that. I've been trying to find ways of just driving up some income for myself on the side. Multiple streams of income, sort of thing. Um, anyway, today was today was kind of a quieter day. My boss is out of the office today, so I was able to get caught up because I help multiple advisors in my office with different things, and so he had been so busy the last couple of weeks that I'd really been getting his stuff together, and I hadn't been able to get to some of the other advisors things that they had for me to do. So I was able to kind of get caught up a little bit with that stuff today. And anyway, work we've been pretty busy lately. I feel like usually spring is a busy time. It'll slow down in the summer. In the summertime, a lot of our clients travel and things like that, so they're not in town, so we don't have meetings, and so it gets a little slows down a little bit in the summer. And we take time off during the summer too. I've got a week off in June. I'll be taking a week off going down to Florida the second week of June. Looking forward to that. I got to do something about my energy levels. I am just feeling so tired all the time right now. It's like I think I need to start an exercise regimen because I don't exercise that much. I'm gonna be honest with you. I do get some walking in each day, especially when I DoorDash and everything. I do get some steps in, but it's like I gotta start lifting weights and getting a little bit more exercise than I'm doing right now. I think that's part of it. I I mean, it's only what time is it right now? It's only 7 o'clock, and I feel like it's time to go to bed. It's like too young to feel like this. I've been listening to some people, and it's pretty sad. Some different podcasts out there, and this one guy, I was listening to him talk, and he's talking about how so many people are just giving up on life, because of their financial situations, um, because of the pain that they're going through in terms of finances. That life is just not enjoyable, and what's the point in living if you're not enjoying life and all you do is work. I can kind of understand that. I'm not in a great place financially right now, but I'm a lot better than I was at one time. A lot of people don't know this about me, but there was after I went through my second divorce, I had kind of a choice to make. My youngest daughter, she wasn't even quite 3 years old yet, and I could have moved back to North Carolina at that point after that divorce, but I was worried about my youngest daughter not really getting to know me very much. And so I stayed in Florida because I wanted to stay in Florida because of that. I wanted to make sure that I had a good relationship with her. And I had the choice of basically, at the time, I wasn't making that much money. I had just started a new job. And basically, I had the choice of either paying rent somewhere or paying my child support. So I paid my child support and I lived out of my vehicle. I was living out of my car for about 2 years. Not very few people know this about me, even in my personal life. My family, my parents know. I don't even think my brother knows about that. I don't know if Brandon knows about that or not. I don't know if my brother knows about that or not, but about 2 years I was living out of my car. It sounds worse than it actually was. I was really worried about it when I first started. Um, Sometimes even today, it's like I look back on that time. This may sound strange to some people, but I almost look back on it a little bit fondly because it was a hard time, but it was also a time of a lot of personal growth, and I think I did become a stronger person out of that whole situation. Um, I think some of my personal experiences, there's been a few key things that have happened in my life that have kind of made me the person I am today, and that was one of them. Um, I think my relationships with women, I think, have also made me a little bit of a. I hate saying this, but my relationships with women, I've talked about this before, have not really been that great. I haven't had very good relationships with women. I've tried to be, a good husband and everything, and it just didn't work out. Dating never worked out. Marriage didn't. I mean, I've been married twice, but dating was always difficult. My marriages didn't work out. Relationships have just not worked out for me at all. So, um, and I think there's, when I was in my, when I went through my first divorce, there was a lot of bitterness and a lot of anger and a lot of, I'd always tried doing everything the right way. Um, and it just still seemed like everything blew up in my face. And so there was a lot of anger after that first divorce, just bitterness, not anger at any particular person, just the situation. I was a little rebellious at that. I became pretty rebellious at that point. Just started doing whatever I wanted to do. I didn't really care what anybody thought anymore. I'd grown up real in a more in the Mormon church and then, adhering to all those beliefs and that system. And you know, for a number of reasons, I just didn't feel like I could do it anymore. It didn't feel like that path was working out for me. Um, so I had gone fairly inactive, even while I was in my first marriage. We weren't real active when I was in my first marriage. Um, but certainly after that marriage ended, I tried to kind of go back into church, but everyone there knew me. And when you're Mormon and you go through a divorce, there's a stigma. There's definitely a stigma, and I felt it. Um, I would see the darting eyes, and I'd see the people whispering, and just all that. And I just couldn't stay there anymore. It just I had to move on with my life. Um, so I when I moved to Florida, when I got married the second time, I moved to Florida. I did try to go back into church down there because there nobody knew me. And for a while that seemed, it seemed okay. But then, of course, that marriage didn't work out. And the Mormon church is a hard church to be in as a single person, because you're sitting there by yourself. Everyone else has their families around them, and it's just difficult. It's just difficult. Um, it can definitely make you feel very depressed. I remember one time in particular, um, that I had to get up and just leave, because it was just really getting to me, a lot. And anyway, I haven't been to the Mormon church. I haven't been back in a long time. Um, just I still almost consider myself Mormon. It's like, I mean, if someone asked me what religion I was, that's what I would tell them. But I haven't been inside a Mormon church in years. Year. Um, it's unfortunate. I kind of feel like it's a little unfortunate, but for a lot of reasons, It's just not. It's just I just can't be there anymore. It's just it just is what it is. But anyway, I kind of getting into my personal life here a little bit, but after my second marriage ended, and I was living in my car for those 2 years, um, it was really, because I had really never lived on my own, just on my own. I went from living, growing up in my parents' home, to serving my mission in Spain, where I was living with other missionaries. Then I came home, I got married, and I had my first wife. We got divorced. After my first divorce ended, lived with my parents again for a while. And then, I got married the second time, and after that divorce, then I finally had the experience of just living on my own. And I have been living on my own now for what, more than 10 years now. And I there's part of me that really likes it. Um, One of the things when I was married, I never felt like I had time to myself. When I was married, I am an introvert by nature, and introverts like having time to themselves. They do. I'm like that a lot, and I like to be able to work on my hobby stuff. I like to have time, and when you're working all day and you come home, and it's like you don't have a lot of space. There's not a lot of extra time. And so when I was married, there was just always other things for me to do. I just never had time for myself or any of my interests or anything. To be honest, and ladies, I don't know that my experience with women. When I was a teenager, or before I got married the first time, I had this image in my head of what being married would be like. And, I always saw myself sitting down at the kitchen table with my wife, and us making our plans together, and a very cohesive, with input from both sides about our future life together. The reality is, my experience was nothing like that. My experience was, I go to work, make money, bring home the paycheck, give it to wife, go back to work. That was my experience from marriage. That's from both of my marriages, really were like that. I never really felt like I had any input into much. Um, Things were going to go the way the wife wanted them to go, and that was it. There was no talking about it. There was no. It was always kind of like that. It felt like to me. Um, I don't know. I sometimes, my mom in particular keeps has asked me many times if I plan on, finding somebody again, and she feels bad that that my brother and I both my brother and I are both divorced. Neither one of us is really planning on getting married again. Um, it might happen at some point that my brother might move into my place. I don't know. I've got a downstairs, with a full bedroom down there that's not being used. He could live down there. Right now he lives in Arkansas, but it's a possibility as we get older, that might be a situation that comes up. um, but I don't know. I'm not planning on getting married again. I haven't even been on a date. How many years? It's been years. It's been years since I've been on a date. I did date a few times after my second marriage ended. Um, probably, probably didn't need to be dating really, but when you're a guy, it's hard to just be by yourself. I think I'm maybe getting to the age where it's easier. It's a little bit easier, and I think I've just had. I think also, and this has been probably the most disappointing part of relationships for me is I'm 48 years old and I've never met a woman that genuinely loved me. I mean, other than my mother, of course, but you know what I mean, though. I've never met a woman that was genuinely interested in me or loved me or really wanted to be with me, and so I always thought I would find somebody that really wanted to be with me, and it's like I've never found that ever, and that being the case, it's just kind of like, what's the point? Why am I even doing this? For what? I mean, why would I want to be married? It's like none of these women really seem to care one way or the other. It's like I was just one option out of many. That's the way all of these women kind of made me feel. Really, it's like I didn't seem to really matter to anybody. So what's the point? Um. Anyway, so it is what it is. I'm uh I'm tired. I Gosh, my dishwasher is making all kinds of racket down there. Um I really want to I'm 48, I'll be 49 in August. I'm really trying to build a strong financial foundation for the next part of my life. I want to really enjoy my 50s because the 50s, this is going to be kind of the last hurrah for, middle age. And then you start getting old, and you go into your 60s and you're starting to kind of get into your older age. And especially for guys, we usually die earlier. And, it's like, who knows how many years I've got left. Um, I have a few key goals that I'm working towards. Um, 2030, my youngest daughter will graduate high school. She wants to take a trip to Europe. So I'm going to be taking my two daughters to Europe. Tentatively, this is 5 years from now. So that's the plan, is to go to Europe for a couple weeks with my daughters. Um, they were talking about they wanted to go to Spain, but I don't know if we go over to Europe. I could show them a pretty extensive. We could have an extensive, view of Spain, or we could hit a couple of highlights in Spain, and then we could fly to Rome, visit Rome, and then maybe fly to Paris, visit Paris, and then maybe even go up to London. Um, that might be a lot for a couple of weeks. We might have to go for 3 weeks for a trip like that, but it's something I've been thinking about. Or we could just stay in Spain. There's plenty to do. I mean, 2 weeks. I mean, I could easily plan a 2 week trip in Spain pretty easily to show my daughters around. Um, Madrid. Madrid's a big city, but there's really two main things to see in Madrid. You have the palace and you have the Prado Museum. Other than that, there's not really a whole lot to see in Madrid. Um, there are other things to see in Madrid, but that's primarily it. Um, could probably take the high speed train from Madrid down to Seville, and I spent 6.5 months living in Seville when I was a missionary there. So that was a big part of my knowledge of my time in Spain was in Seville. And there's probably more to see in Seville than there is in Madrid, to be honest with you. um, Madrid has a good art museum. They have their big cathedral, the Plaza de España. They have the Torre de Oro and the river right there, the Guadalquivir River. They have riverboat rides that go down the river, and Parque Maria Luisa. And there's a lot of things to see in Seville, but the Triana region of area of Seville too. It's kind of the gypsy quarter of Seville. The Triana over there, they have a lot of the flamenco shows and things like that. Um, and definitely we would need to get to Granada and see the Alhambra. Um, anyway, I'm thinking about these trips. The year after that trip, so that'll be in 2030. In 2031, I'll be turning 55 that year. And it is my intention to take 2 months off of work and go and complete the Camino de Santiago. The Camino de Santiago, for those of you that are not familiar with it, it is a famous pilgrimage over in, well, it starts the Camino. There's several different paths that you can go. The main one, the principal one, the one that made it famous is what they call the French way, the Camino Frances. And you start on the French border, on the French side of the Pyrenees, and you cross over into Spain on the first day, and then you spend the next couple of months hiking across northern Spain, all the way over to Santiago de Compostela, which is where, according to tradition, according to their legend, the remains of the Apostle St. James reside in the cathedral there at Santiago de Compostela. Back in medieval times, this was the third most important pilgrimage. The pilgrimage to Jerusalem and then the pilgrimage to Rome were the two most important, and then this was the third one. And so millions of pilgrims did this back in the Middle Ages, and you go into the cathedral and there's a statue of Christ there, and over the centuries, the pilgrims that walk in, they will kiss Christ's foot, the statue. And so many people have done that. It's been, over hundreds and hundreds of years that his foot, there's a place where his foot's been worn smooth from all the pilgrims that have come and kissed it. Now, I don't know if you would want to kiss something that literally millions of other people have kissed, but it's like, I don't know about that. But yeah. I anyway, it used to be strictly a religious experience. Today it's more of there are people that do it for the religious aspect. It's kind of a spiritual journey, not necessarily a Catholic journey, but a spiritual journey. And I think that it gives you a lot of time to reflect on your life. And I wish I could do it sooner, really, but I don't. I'm not going to be ready to do that for a few years. I don't know. There's part of me that wants to do it sooner. I'll have to think about that. Anyway, um, it's something I've been thinking about for several years, and I've got most of the gear that I need for the hiking. I've lost some weight. I think I could handle it better now. I'm a little worried about my ankles. And maybe this is something, anyone out there have ankle problems, flat feet and ankle problems, because that's my biggest concern about it, is because when I go and walk, like for example, the last time I went to Disney, I went to February, I went to Disney, and I was walking for, I think I walked about 8 to 10 miles. Um, each day at Disney, and I'm going to tell you what, my ankles were killing me. But I think it's because at Disney you're walking more on like concrete, and when you're doing the Camino de Santiago, you're walking on dirt for the most part. So it may not be quite as bad that way. Um, it's funny, when I was serving my mission in Spain, we walked all day long, and I never had my ankles hurt when I was over there. It's kind of amazing, really. But I never had problems with it, and I think I'm going to have to just strengthen up, get out, and get to walking a little bit more, and start building up some stamina that way. I think that's what's going to have to happen. Um, anyway, I'll work on it, but it's something I really want to do. It's one of those things that when I'm on my deathbed, if I haven't accomplished this, by the time I'm on my deathbed, I'm going to look back and really regret that I didn't do it. So it's going to happen. Um, my mom thinks I'm crazy, and I know, I understand. I understand her feelings on it. She's worried about my ankles too, and the pain that I can get with all that sometimes. So we'll just play that by ear. Anyway, I've been going on longer than I expected to. I think I get a little chatty when I'm tired. You guys have a great evening. I'm going to try to put out videos more often, and sometimes I will ramble like this and just get on here and tell you what's on my mind. So enjoy the ride. Happy Monday evening.